Hello and welcome back to day 11. You're with Big Bear Automations, and if you don't know what this is all about, please go and have a look at day one. I'll put a link in the channel somewhere, and basically we're just stripping back all of my knowledge and we're starting again and learning n8n together. Today we're talking about one of the most underrated but incredibly useful nodes in n8n, and that is the set node. Think of the set node as your data factory. It creates exactly the data that you need when you need it, whether you're testing workflows or need to inject specific information. This little powerhouse is about to become your best friend. It's going to be the thing that you call upon when you need it. And it's something that you should definitely watch and get involved with. So first of all, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell, like, comment, have a conversation with me. I try and reply to all my comments, so please, not that I've got loads at the minute, but please reach out and we'll jump on it together. So what is the set node? So the set node is a data generator, basically. Instead of waiting for data from external services, it creates the data right in your workflow when you need it. So you can define exactly what data you want, the packages that the data is in the right format, and then send it to the next node in your workflow. Most nodes work with dynamic data, information that changes each time. The same information every time. When would you use static data? So I've done a nice graph for us. So testing workflows. So anything without external dependencies. If you knew, for example, that you're going to call an API or you're going to get a webhook that's going to give you some form data in this sort of structure, put it as a set, and then you can test your workflow with that information before you even think about creating the form. And then what that also means is that if you're doing that and you've realized halfway down the road that you need something else in your workflow, you can just add it to your set node and then also create it in the form after the fact. So you're preventing errors when you get, or preventing reworking on the form as you go. Adding default values to your data. So any adding values that you know that it needs. So example would be if you know that the data needs to have now the date, you can just put that in and it will automatically go in from there. Creating templates for emails or messages, again, very good use case. We have seen one of these in a different day. I don't know if we went into it too much, but all that it is that you then have HTML, for example, that's going to be in a certain structure and pass in your data that needs to go into it, so that the name's the same, name's different, but the whole structure is going to be the same. So it's consistent. It's just that the some of the data is dynamic that's in there. Injecting configuration into your workflows. Again, anything that you need, things like a database name or something like that, you can just set that data and then call it back again when you need it later down the workflow. So the set node is perfect for all of these scenarios, and we're going to go and see what that looks like in action. So to get a set node, here she is. All you have to do is search for set and it comes up, set node. Add that in, comes up with this nice dialog that shows manual mapping or JSON. We're going to concentrate on manual mapping for now. So we're going to have a look at the interface and understand the interface a little bit more. So we've got fields to set here, include other input fields, and options here. We're going to focus on this bit, and probably the only bit that you really need to focus on. To be honest with you, I don't really use these at all. I'm sure there are some scenarios that I'd need ignore type conversion errors and support dot notation. However, we're not going to touch on them now. And if we do need them, give me a shout and I will do a video about them. But we're going to focus on this bit. So all this is doing is adding a key value pair. So give an example. We want a name, and that name is going to be John Smith. Test step. On the output, we have the name, John Smith, and then we can use that output in the next node. Simple as that. Let's add a few more. Email. We're going to do john@example.com. And we're going to do role. He is a urgent. That's that step. Here you go. You've got your email, your name, and your role. Simple. So it's easy as that to create your structure that you need. So say that this was something that you were going to get passed by a database. You've now got a test DB structure. You can then mess around with this, say it's calling the API all the time, and then create your workflow based on this structure, knowing that you're going to get that through the front end once you've set up your webhook, etc. So let's dive deeper a little bit into creating different types of data. The set node can handle any kind of information you throw at it. I'll start with the basic text, which we've already done. So we've got your first name, your name, your email, and your role, all as strings. What if we didn't have a string? We needed a number. So if we say, okay, well, what's your age? Please, John. Click the number, and John's 50. Comes through, it's 50 there. Says it's not in quote marks, which notates that it is a number. Again, what about if we need another one? Number. Salary. John is minted. Number comes through again, just as we need it. So there's no quotes around it, and that just dictates that it's a number. Again, very simple. It's green and blue as well, which makes it a little bit easier to understand. So what if we needed a true or false? So we go down to boolean, and is pro or is premium. No, we'll just say it's pro. And you can put true or false. So here's a pro, comes through true or false. If I send it to false, you'll see the difference. False. We can then use that as in our if statements, in any of our logic fields that we need to send it down a different path for the pro users or not the pro users. What else can we add in here? So we've got an array, and we've got objects. We can add dates in. So if I say this is date, and we're going to add in the last logged in date. Actually, let's go to expression. And we're going to look at new date time. No, that's not going to work. I'm just going to put date time. No. Cool. That's that. And now you've got your date as well that you can format and use at a later time. So you know that when this data come in, the date is date.now and is a timestamp of when the user triggered this workflow. Very useful and something that you may need. You can then format it at a later date if you need it into a different format. So let's talk about what happens to the data. When you execute the set node, it creates what n8n calls an item or items. And an item is just a package of data. It's a JSON format, and our set node created this, which is our JSON. We can do multiples of these. So if you wanted to duplicate the item, let's say you wanted it twice, just to test multiple users triggering it at the same time or multiple bits of data coming through the webhook, we can just simply duplicate it to as many as you think may come through. Very good for edge cases. So if you think that 11 is going to be the max you'll ever get, then you can test it at 11 through your workflow. We're not going to duplicate items for now though. So what you can then do is call the stuff. Let's just test it. So in your set node, if we set another one, you've then got access to the items or the pieces of data within that item within the next node. So if we say test, create an expression, and then we want the name. So you can see here it's JSON.name is age old and earns this salary. Test. So John Smith is 50 old, 50. Oh, that's not good English. Years old and earns loads of money. So you can start calling it JSON. You can start calling it with the dot notation, and you can start seeing how the expressions work. So what we're going to do is we're going to build a workflow and show you what that will look like. So we're going to delete this one. We're going to delete this one, and we're going to jump in here. And we've got the name, we've got the email. We're going to put a product in there. And we're going to call that plan pro. We're going to get rid of the age, and we're going to put renewal date, and we're going to put that as 2025 -15. We're going to get rid of salary. We're going to add this is account status, or is account active. We're going to set that to true. We're going to delete that. Okay, so test that. We've got, test that. Oh, come on. Did you really take it out? Let's try that again. Now we've got the structure that we would get from our database that we are trying to send a email to, so that we can start testing our workflow with that data. So we'll just save that for now. So what we're then going to do is add an email node. So I've already set up Gmail. If you go back for the later dates, you'll see how to do this. So we're going to send a message. Now I'm going to send it to me, just so we can see it as an example. But what you would do is probably use that email in there. As easy as that. Okay, so what we're going to say here is welcome back John Smith. So we're getting dynamic data now. And the body is going to be text. And we're going to say, hello. Let's make it big screen. No, let's make the expression big screen. Hello, John. Your product is still active. Your next renewal date is thank you, Bear Automations. Okay, we're going to save that. We're going to add a label because it makes it easier to find, because my email is full of gumph. Add a label. Test. Nope. We're going to test this. Yep. And then we're going to go back and we're going to bring in the message ID and we're going to bring in the label, which is my n8n test. And we're going to test that and that works. Okay. So then if we go over to Gmail, let me just load that up for you. And see what we get out. So we should be getting the dynamic data that we've just put in there from our structure, which eventually will come from a database or a webhook form submission. Cool. So if I just click there. So if I bring that back into play now. So welcome back, John Smith. Your product plan is still active. Your next renewal date is blah. Thanks. So that works, which is perfect. Okay. We've tested the workflow. So let's explore a little bit the different types of data you can create with set nodes and how to format them properly. So for text, you have loads of options, right? So we can do loads of different things with it. So let's look at string formatting. We have a few options here. So simple text, which is, as said, the multi-line, which looks like this. We can do expressions. So we can bring in stuff. Actually, let's move to this one. Let's refresh that. It doesn't seem to be working. We can do backslash, which we just did, expressions. So that's that. Make sure it's working. Yeah. We can do expressions like this. And then we can do HTML as well. So if we can have a look, we can add some HTML in. Let's just keep it simple. H1, H2. You got your HTML in there as well, which you can then call later down the line. So for numbers, we have integers, which are these, 20, this one, etc. You got your decimals, and then you've got your large numbers. That's it. You don't need quotes, etc. And then Boolean is your true or falses, which can be used for status flags, feature toggles, conditions in your if nodes, etc. Very good. True or false is a very strong, or Booleans are very strong. You've got your arrays. So come in here. Example of this would be square brackets, apple, pear. If you hear that, you got your arrays. And then you've got your objects. Actually, we'll keep that an array. We'll have another one. Which is your JSON structure. So let's give this an address, which has a street. Hopefully my JSON is in the right format. Test. And it has a city, which is, of course, a well-known city. Test city. Let's test that. I knew it. Got it. I always mess up on JSON. That's why we got AI. So there are the different formats that we can have with your arrays and your objects all within it. So reusing your set nodes as your data starters, it's a pro tip. It's very good to get your structure in there, to mess around with the structure before you start building structure in databases, etc. You don't know what you need until you need it. What you can do is copy these and put them into its own workflow. So you've got like set nodes of, this is the database structure, this is the email address endpoint, this is the company business profile endpoint, and you can start collecting up these libraries of set nodes that you can then use to create different workflows, so you don't have to keep remembering your structure. So what I normally do, and my testing strategy, is to start every workflow with a set node of information that I normally get from the webhook. I use realistic data, so things that matches my production scenarios, and I will create edge cases, so tests with like empty values, special characters, etc. I then have my data organization. I group related fields together. I use consistent naming convention, so normally camel case, snake case if needed, but camel case is probably the best one for me. And then I add comments into my data structures as I need them. So a little bit another tip around this is that performance considerations. So set nodes are very quick, so it's obviously a lot easier than calling an external API. Not that it loads fast, that too slow, but if you're hitting your database that you don't need to, it's better just to get a node as they're very fast, as a set node, as it's very quick, and you can use multiple to batch process. Set nodes are amazing as well for debugging. So inject known data at any point in your workflow, test specific scenarios without external dependencies, and isolate problems by replacing the complex data sources with the data in a set node. It just gives you more focus on, if this bit's failing, I'm going to pass in that certain bit of data, and I'm going to find out why that data is failing at that point. So just a few tips there. So now we know how to create static data with a set node, work with the different data types and formats, use set nodes for testing and development, build reusable data templates, and switch between test and production data. So just for the last one, if you were going to switch, all you need to do is replace your test node, test trigger with the webhook or form or whatever you're doing, and then change the data from that in where you can even put it into there, or you can put it straight into your different nodes. You don't need to keep this in there. So hopefully the set node is going to help you speed up your workflow development. And if it does, please like, subscribe, and follow. It really helps. And please get involved on the comments and look out for day 12. It's on the way. Thank you all. Things with the text.